Hey guys, welcome to the video. Today we're going to be talking about some fantasy running backs. Today's a very special video as we've got some guests on the channel in Baskin, Brad, and Halbert. Please like and subscribe if you haven't already, and I hope you enjoy the video. So hey guys, welcome to our Fantasy Football Talk running backs video. We are going to get started right now. So these are running backs that you should put on your radar in 2020. So we're going to start with Brad here.
So I'm going to talk about Josh Jacobs, who should have been Rookie of the Year last year. He's on the Raiders, who have Trent Brown, who's a great offensive lineman around, as well as the rest of the offensive line. Have Darren Waller, but that production from Derek Carr is not enough to take away from the run game, as well as John Gruden saying that Derek Carr may not be the quarterback and maybe looking to draft a new one, so they may want to establish a run game this year.
I like this pick. I feel like next year, Josh Jacobs, he's gonna be one of those like top five-ish running backs. You always have the people like Todd Gurley who they have a great rookie year, and then second year they like fully establish themselves. And I don't see any reason he would do any worse than last year. So I like the pick.
For me, I like this pick just because of the other running backs that are available in fantasy this year. In fantasy this year, there's a shortage of good running backs. There's that top-tier running back class with guys like Kamara, McCaffrey, Barkley, and Elliott. And then after that, we have a significant drop-off with like Dalvin Cook and Derrick Henry. And those guys are very like risky. Anyone after those top four running backs are pretty risky. So Josh Jacobs, I think, is one of the safer picks out of the running back class. I think his production is kind of you can see what he's going to do next year. I don't think there's too much of a concern of him not producing like there is about Aaron Jones or Derrick Henry or guys like that. So I think he's a safer running back pick, but I don't know if he's a running back one. So watch out for that, but I do like this Josh Jacobs pick. Next on, we have Baskin and David Johnson.
Okay, so this is clearly a surprise pick because this is my sleeper running back. And my reason is I think that in that Houston Texans offense, we saw Carlos Hyde succeed last year. And I think if David Johnson is semi-healthy, I think he's just a better player than Carlos Hyde, in my opinion. And I think he could get over 1,000 yards in that offense. I think Deshaun Watson, I mean, without DeAndre Hopkins, I think he really will struggle this year a lot more than we think he will. And I think Will Fuller, he's injury prone. So it could be midway through the year and all the Houston Texans have is Kenny Stills, Kiki Kuti, and a bunch of scrubs. And what are they going to do? They're going to run the ball. And if David Johnson is healthy, I think we could see one of the more surprising comeback seasons this year.
I do not like this pick. I've lost trust in David Johnson for the past couple of years. I don't know. He's getting older. He's getting worse. And the Texans, they're going to be so much worse without Hopkins. They're not going to be able to run it as much, even though they don't have Hopkins.
I mean, that's why for me, this is a sleeper pick because that offensive line didn't get worse. They only got better because Max Sharping was injured for part of last year. You still have Laramie Tunsil.
Yeah,
but okay interior
O-line is still for me, that's the thing. I like the David Johnson pick because of the upside, yet the injury concern.
I think he'll be a low-round pick, but I think he's a good – in my opinion, he's a steal.
People are taking him in the fourth round.
Yeah, fourth round's way too high for him.
I would consider
– He is clear bust potential.
Take a risk.
So
that's my hot take.
Okay, we got some hot takes from Baskin. Let's move on to Derrius Guice from Halbert.
Okay, I'm a big fan of Redskins running backs. I don't know why. I just like them. Like, I was high on Adrian Peterson when he was Redskin for a while. Like that year, Guice's like rookie year where he should have been his rookie year where he was injured the whole year. I love Peterson, and I don't know. They just have a good running game. Well, they're not great, but like they have good fantasy numbers for their running backs. And Haskins, he's not gonna be throwing it much. And I just like Guice. I liked him a lot coming out of college. last year, I think he did fine, and I'm happy about that pick.
Okay, I completely disagree with this.
Yeah.
Alex was disagreeing with my David Johnson. I have nothing nice to say about Derrius Guice. He's completely injury prone. I mean, David Johnson at least had some productive seasons. Derrius Guice had like 1 or 2 decent games, and that was pretty much it in his entire career. I mean, I would not draft Derrius Guice unless he was like a late round flyer, because I have no faith in the Washington Redskins. I mean, that team, they're complete doo-doo. I mean, I think at most this guy maybe rushes for like 700 yards and like 4 touchdowns. So draft him if you want to lose your fantasy football league. That's all I got to say.
Great to hear those hot takes there. So let's move on to Joe Mixon. Now, with Joe Mixon here is a little bit of an interesting one. I decided to go with Joe Mixon because of, as I already talked about with the Josh Jacobs pick, he's better than the competition around him. I feel like he's a less risky player as your running back 2 or even like a really low-end running back 1. I like him more than Eckler. I like him more than Aaron Jones. I just think he's less risky. The man has had good numbers. He had the 5th most carries last season. That's probably not going to go away. Joe Burrow is going to need his running game. Yes, they do have A.J. Green this year. Yes, they have T. Higgins this year. But also he had the 9th most rushing yards last year with over 1,000 rushing yards. He also had 5 rushing touchdowns. Also, the thing with Mixon is maybe he's not the greatest PPR guy. He doesn't get the most targets out of the backfield. I think he had 30-something targets last season and 3 receiving touchdowns. But I think that will grow. I think Burrow's going to utilize him a lot. As we saw kind of last season at LSU, I know Clyde Edwards-Helaire is not necessarily Joe Mixon, but Burrow did use Clyde Edwards-Helaire a lot, and that's why Edwards-Helaire ended up being a first-round pick. So look for the running game in Cincinnati to open up. Also, another thing, they have that first-round pick offensive tackle that they got last year, Jonah Williams, back after coming off of injury. So that offensive line's going to be revamped. I just like Joe Mixon this year. I think he's better than the guys around him, and he's a safer pick.
I completely agree. I have nothing else to say, but good pick. I mean, Joe Mixon, if you don't take him in fantasy, if he's available in the 2nd round, I'd easily take him. He's a great pick. That's all I have to say. Take him. Nothing else.
Love to hear it. Okay, let's move on to the guys we don't like. So these are the running backs we don't like. So let's start with Brad and Mark Ingram.
All right. So first off, he's getting up there in age, which for a running back, the only guy that's really done that or overcome that is Frank Gore. And they also drafted J.K. Dobbins in the 2nd round, which is a high pick to use on a running back when you already have a considered like very good running back. They also use Lamar way more than not way more than they should because they get production out of him, but they run with him a lot more than any other team does. And they have Hollywood Brown that they're going to try to utilize because they don't want to waste that pick, and tight ends that they want to use. And I just don't see him having the numbers that he has in the past seasons. And draft him maybe as like a late flyer, but I don't see him going early, or shouldn't be going early.
So I think he's going currently around the 50s to 60s area.
That's
and I agree with Brad in the most part. However, with the lack of good running backs this year, maybe he's a stretch running back 3, like a bottom tier running back 3. Yeah, go on, Halbert.
I kind of like him. He did very good last year with Lamar Jackson also running. I've always just trusted Mark Ingram. He was good with the Saints. Baltimore. He kept it up pretty well, I think. And I think he could be the next Frank Gore. You never know. I think he's a good RB3, maybe not RB2, but I don't think he's gonna be a bust or anything, and I don't think he's being drafted too high.
I mean, Alex, this is the problem for me. Mark Ingram's 30, and then once running backs reach 30, they hit regression. I guess it's kind of sad because they don't have that many years in their prime, but that's just reality. And I think the Ravens drafting J.K. Dobbins, they still have they have Gus Edwards or they have someone else there. And I think the Ravens, they're just going to be running back by committee, which could definitely hurt Mark Ingram this year. So I don't love him in fantasy.
So let's move on to Kenyan Drake.
The Arizona Cardinals, I think they're being a little overrated here. My number one thing is their offensive line is goddamn garbage. I think they have pretty much no one. I mean,
Humphries.
They have DJ Humphries. They drafted who did the Cardinals draft again? Who did they get? They got
Josh Jones.
They got Josh Jones. They got Isaiah Simmons in the first round. They should have taken a tackle. That was their problem. I mean, DJ Humphries, I don't know who their right tackle is. I really don't care. But that offensive line It's just horrible. And I think DeAndre Hopkins, I think he'll still put up decent stats in that offense, but I think we're still overblowing it a lot because the Seahawks are still a better team. The 49ers are still a better team. And that Rams team, I mean, they're not terrible. I mean, they still have Aaron Donald to stop the run. So I think Kenyan Drake, he's one of those guys like Jay Ajayi where I'll have that one game of like 200 yards and then he won't be as good. So he's very inconsistent, and I don't love him in fantasy this year.
Talking about former Dolphins running backs, I completely agree with you, Baskin, here. Drake, take it from a Dolphins fan. I understand he played well at the end of the season in Arizona, but Drake is not going to be a second-round running back. Do not take him in the second round. Right now on ESPN, I think in PPR leagues, they have him at like 15 or 16. Please don't take Kenyan Drake in the second round. It will lose you your draft. He will mess something up, and I just don't trust Kenyan Drake.
A little salty there, Adam.
Yeah. A little bit salty.
But just something to add. Same problem I had with Lamar taking away carries from Mark Ingram. Kyler Murray will definitely take away carries from Kenyan Drake now that he knows he can scramble. So, I
think the verdict is don't draft Kenyan Drake.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know, Adam. I don't know.
Let's move on here to David Montgomery.
David Montgomery, the problem with him, in my opinion, is Tariq Cohen's still there. And he's good. He's a very talented player. And also, the Bears don't really run it much anyway. We have Allen Robinson, who I don't really like him either. I just don't trust anyone in the Bears offense really. And even though Montgomery, he's young and promising, it's just the same vibe with him, in my opinion.
Yeah, I like that analysis. However, I'm just going to go back to this thing. There are not enough good running backs this year in fantasy that are low risk. And Montgomery, I don't think he's low risk. I don't think he's high risk. He's just kind of just that. He's just an ad player. He doesn't get you excited. He doesn't give you that huge upside. He doesn't give you that low floor. He's just an average player that you're going to take in like the 7th round and be like, okay, he'll sit on my bench for 8 weeks and then my running back will have a bye week and I'll put him in. I don't think there's a lot here with Montgomery.
I think he could have a similar role to Jordan Howard this year. So I think he could still be a decent pick as a flex option. I mean, we did see Jordan Howard have a good year in that offense. I mean, I guess Matt Forte, but that was a while ago, so that doesn't really matter. But I think recently Jordan Howard, I mean, he could put up a very similar season to him because I don't think Mitch Trubisky is really going to do anything or Nick Foles. So I think the Bears could end up running the ball a lot more than we think this year.
So now we go to the Broncos running backs. So Philip Lindsay, Melvin Gordon, I don't think they are going to be drafted or I don't think you should draft them as high as they're going. I think Melvin Gordon is in that 4th, 5th round range, and Lindsay is in those 7 to 8 round range. For me, if you had to go and get one, it'd be Lindsay. Do not spend a high draft pick on Melvin Gordon because, 1, he has competition with Lindsay, and 2, we just don't know how he's going to fit in that offense there in Denver. Also, that Denver O-line is just terrible. Baskin can definitely attest to that. So I'm worried about this. These running backs here. Maybe Lindsay's a good handcuff for Gordon, but I'm just really I don't like either of these running backs this year. So what do you think, Baskin? You're the Broncos.
I mean, I like them together. I think they complement each other very nice. I mean, Gordon's a power back. Lindsay's more elusive, maybe a little bit of a pass catcher. But I wouldn't take either that high. I think Melvin Gordon may have more upside this year, actually. Probably not in PPR, but in non-PPR he does. I think in a PPR league, I think they're pretty even because I think Denver wants them as a number 1 back this year because they want to kind of just rush with a power rush and then throw the ball downfield. I don't think they're happy with what Lindsay's doing, even though he's had great success in that offense. So I think I'd rather take Gordon in non-PPR. And, I mean, both of them, I think they're fringe flex possibly, but probably just a bench guy on your fantasy team this year.
Yeah, I kind of like what you said there with them both being good options together to complement one another and not really good fantasy options. So I think they're good for the Broncos, but I don't think they're good for fantasy. Now that you've reached the end of my video, I want to thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe as it helps my channel out.
And check out my other videos on my channel. Also, you can follow my Instagram. The link is in the description down below. And I hope you enjoyed the video. Until next time, see ya.